I'm going to show you an example of a two-way repeated. The example I'm going to show you is based on a classic experiment that was conducted in 1975 by Godin and Baddeley. And they came up with a kind of a cute experiment, a very ingenious, I should say, experiment. They were testing the state dependency or state-dependent learning effect, which basically says that if you match the environment you learn in and the environment you test in, that's going to likely yield the highest scores. If you mismatch those, so if you learn in one environment and test in another environment, then scores go down. And so to show this, they actually used scuba divers. And what they did is they had participants learn in one environment and test or learn in a different environment. They actually had 4 different treatment combinations, okay? So there was a learning environment and a testing environment. The learning environment could have been on dry land or underwater. They actually put them in a pool, learned this list of words, and they had to learn it underwater. And that was the learning environment, okay? So they either, they learned, in one occasion, they learned on dry land. On a different occasion, they learned underwater. And then they either tested on dry land or tested underwater. And they looked to see, among the 4 different possible combinations, which combination yielded the highest memory scores. And they found that learning on dry land and testing on dry land, that yield the highest combination, the highest scores, which was equivalent also to learning underwater and testing underwater. So as long as the environments matched, that's when you got the highest scores, okay? And everybody was tested in all 4 conditions. So the remaining conditions were learn on dry land, test underwater, and learn underwater, test on dry land. So this got me thinking, we have you learn in one environment and often test in a different environment. So for example, you learn in a classroom or at home, and then you test maybe at the testing center. So in those situations, should we expect scores to go down just because it's a different environment? So that's how I got this idea for this hypothetical study below. All right. So we're going to fashion it after Godin and Baddeley, and we're going to have factor A or B. I don't care which one you want to call it. This could be A or B, but let's call this the learning environment. And then you learn in the classroom or you learn in the testing center, which is why we can never do this experiment because they wouldn't let us teach in the testing center. But that's your learning environment. Then your testing environment is either in the classroom or the testing center. All right. So this gives you 4 possible combinations, right? It's a 2x2, which gives you 4 cell means, 4 treatment combinations. So this would be learn in the classroom, test in the classroom. Learn in the classroom, test in the testing center. Learn in the testing center, test in the classroom, and then finally learn in the testing center and test in the testing center. I know, gets a little confusing. Okay, so from this two-way ANOVA, we are going to have 4 cell means. That's going to test the interaction effect. We have 2 marginal means for the testing environment. So that's going to be investigated by the main effect of testing environment. And then we have 2 marginal means, and this will be, or these will be compared by the main effect of learning environment, right? So we have 2 main effects, main effect of learning environment, main effect of testing environment, and then the interaction between the 2. Now, how do we know that this is a two-way repeated ANOVA? Well, the way to figure it out here would be to look at who is being tested in each factor. So if we look at classroom, if we look at this column of data, who is in the classroom condition? Subjects 1 through 5, right? Now, don't say it's subjects 1 through 5, subjects 1 through 5, therefore it's different. These are the same 5 people. All right, so the same 5 people are tested here in classroom. You have to ignore this other factor, right? So forget that there's 2 different combinations here, this one and this one. Look at the entire column and say who's in it. It's subjects 1 through 5. Who is in this column? Who is being tested, or sorry, who is learning in the testing center? Again, it's subjects 1 through 5. So now ask yourself, are these people in this column also being tested in this column? Are they the same group of people? And the answer is yes. So that makes learning environment within subjects. What about over here? Testing environment. Well, you do the same thing, only this time you're looking at rows. So who is in row 1? That would be the classroom condition. It's subjects 1 through 5. Okay, who is in the testing center row? This condition. It's subjects 1 through 5. So in other words, the people who get tested in the classroom are also tested at the testing center. It's the same group of people. They are just tested twice in both conditions. That makes testing environment also within subjects. Now, I'm going to give you a little trick here. How to tell if it's a two-way repeated. If you look at the 4 cells, because we have 4 of them here, if the same group of people are tested in each and every cell, then you know that all your factors are within subjects, all right? Or again, you could use pairing or matching, but we'll deal with that later. Okay, so as we can see, it's the exact same group of people in every cell. That makes this a repeated ANOVA, so two-way repeated ANOVA. If it were an entirely different group of people in each and every cell, so if this was 1 through 5, 6 through 10, 11 through 15, and 16 through 20, if every cell had a unique group of people, it would be a two-way independent ANOVA. It would mean that both of your factors are between subjects and no pairing or matching. All right, so that's a kind of a quick little trick here. All right, again, with this design, how many F ratios? All two-way ANOVAs calculate 3 F ratios. It doesn't matter how many levels you have for each factor. Each factor has to have at least 2, right? But this one could have had 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 levels, right? Not likely. That would be a poor design if that were the case. Same thing over here. This factor has to have at least 2, but it could have had 3, 4, 5, whatever. All right? It doesn't matter. What matters is if you have two-way ANOVAs, you have 3 F ratios. There's going to be the F value to look at the main effect of factor A, an F to look at the main effect of factor B, and an F to look at the interaction effect.